everyone, my name is Nina and welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's video. Today we are going to be discussing hobbies, why you need them, how to get into them, and what are some easy ones to try out. If it's not already clear, considering the fact that I have a YouTube channel dedicated to my hobby of reading, I am a hobby girl, always have been and probably always will be. And I was shocked and appalled to learn that there are a lot of people, particularly young women, who feel like they don't have hobbies. It's just so sad, and honestly, the normies, are they okay? Have you talked to your normie friend lately and checked up on them? So I wanted to do a video today dedicated to hobbies. These are ones I think that anyone can get into. A lot of these are ones that I have found really fulfilling in my life. And hopefully you will get some good ideas from this video for things for you to try out as well. First of all, let's talk about the topic of why you should have hobbies. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the phrase 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours for what you will, but this was used in the labor movement in the 1800s to lobby for the 8-hour workday, and they were so right. No one should be working all the time. And in today's society of everything being grind, hustle culture, it can be hard to pull away from the constant state of feeling like you need to monetize everything in your life. And I will say the caveat of if you think that by working for yourself instead of having a traditional 9 to 5, that you're willing to sacrifice some freedom and work a little bit more, that is fine in moderation. But for most of the girls who have a 9 to 5 like myself, I am not using my what you will time to be grinding. It will be my dilly-dallying fun time to spend on my hobbies. Not everything needs to be monetizable, and having a hobby is a good way to give yourself space away from that toxic hustle culture and just explore and have fun. Let's talk about specifically what hobbies can do. They are a great way to create a goal for yourself outside of work. They're a way for you to grow and challenge yourself on a more personal level outside of productivity. They're an opportunity for you to learn a new skill. They're a way for you to reconnect with an old passion you maybe had when you were a kid. Kids obviously get signed up for a zillion extracurriculars. Who says you can't continue to do that as an adult? They're a really great way to help with mental health, as they are something that can help you stop mindlessly scrolling. I also think having hobbies makes you a more interesting person, because you then have more stuff to talk about. That makes you develop more strong opinions, which obviously makes you more engaging to talk to. And they're a way for you to have fun. Now let's talk about some of the hobbies in question. I tend to be more on the creativity hobby / solo person doing an activity spectrum. So that's really what this list is based on. But I did try and incorporate some other things that my friends and family have done for hobbies that I've seen be very rewarding for them to kind of expand the scope a little bit. With each of these hobbies, I'm going to mention what it is, what I like about it, and how you can get into it. So let's get into the actual list. The first hobby is obviously going to be reading. That is what my channel is dedicated on and is one of my main hobbies. And I feel like, at least in recent years, reading has really become the hobby for someone who has never had a hobby before. I do think that really has been linked to the rise of trends like That Girl that kind of made reading seem like an essential part of a daily healthy routine. In terms of why I like reading specifically, I feel like it's a combination of both escapism, but it's also a way to learn something new. There's obviously a lot that can be said about the beauty in the art of writing. When an author phrases things in just the right way or does a plot reveal that just hits so perfectly, it really just scratches at an itch in my brain like nothing else does. In terms of how you can get into this hobby, I feel like there is a really low barrier to entry because of libraries where you can basically get books for free. And from there, it's really about just upping the ambiance, getting a cozy blanket, a candle, and a warm drink. There was also a low barrier to entry in that reading is a very passive activity of you just taking in the media, similarly to watching TV. If you want some books specifically to get you into reading, I will link a video I made about some beginner books to try, but here is also some rapid fire recommendations. One is the Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies series by Heather Fawcett. Another is pretty much all of Margaret Rogerson's YA fantasy books. The Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber, and basically any Greek mythology retelling. Okay, the next topic we were going to be talking about is journaling in combination with scrapbooking. The main reason why I do this is to kind of create a tangible version of my memories and things I like instead of it just being on my Google Photos app. This can really take a lot of different forms. You can focus on your memories or talking about your favorite things like your favorite TV shows or books you've read. You really don't need a lot of supplies. In terms of like finding content, you can obviously use your own photos, or you can go on like Pinterest or Canva and print out images to glue into your journal. If you want recommendations on like physical things to get, obviously I would suggest getting a journal and some type of pen you like writing with to kind of add more flair to your journal. I would also recommend either the Tombow brush pens or the Zebra mild liners for adding a like colored pen option for writing and coloring. I also tend to use a lot of washi tape for decoration in my journal. And for people just starting out, I would recommend getting a very like basic rainbow set. So that way you can use these colors as a base when layering, and then maybe add on like a metallic or glitter washi tape to add more texture. And then you can get washi tapes or stickers that are more connected to your specific interest. Like in my journal, I have a lot of different like bookish washi tape and stickers, since this is primarily my reading journal. Another kind of more free alternative is if you have a iPad or another tablet already, you can get into digital journaling. I primarily use Procreate, which is a application that's like a one-time fee. This is a journal spread I made when watching House MD. Another very easy hobby to get into is drawing or painting, or just really like being creative in any way. You can do this so basically with just like any old pencil and paper. There's no pressure to be good, just practice is the most important thing. I think more people honestly should just doodle. I feel like I got out of the habit of drawing a lot in my 20s because I thought everything needed to be this like a big, perfect finished piece. But that just like really isn't true. Honestly, probably some of the best work I did was on random doodles on the back of like my homework back in high school. It's definitely an underrated and very easy hobby if you're looking for something to do with your hands that isn't focused on just like mindlessly scrolling on your phone. Another incredibly easy hobby to get into is to try out puzzles. I think these are a really good like a background activity hobby of something you can do while either like listening to an audiobook or a podcast or watching TV. And it's also a really good activity to do with a friend, a partner, or if you have kids. These are like the only two puzzles we own. I feel like a 500-piece puzzle or like a 250-piece puzzle is like the ideal size for me. And probably a good place to start if you're interested in getting into puzzle making. Another fun and kind of like productive hobby is baking. Obviously, as humans, we all need to eat. So getting into a hobby that is kind of something you have to do already is a good way to like romanticize it and make it more fun. I feel like baking can seem really intimidating because it is a more exact science than cooking. But you can make a lot of different things if you have just like the basics of flour, sugar, and cooking oil in your pantry. And having a tub of shelf-stable icing on hand to kind of like spruce up anything that you're not 100% on. And obviously making things from a box is also totally valid. And you can kind of do like recipe hacks to add in items to those boxes if you want to like kind of elevate it from just being the basic box recipe itself. Another great hobby that is something a lot of my friends are into is playing an instrument. Depending on where you lived, you probably had an instrument that you played in middle school or high school. If you ever played in your high school band or had to take instrument lessons when you were a kid, you might still even have that old instrument. I have a friend who wanted to get back into concert band after no longer being in college and was able to find a local community band to play in. Obviously, you can just like relearn an instrument on your own in your home, but I think also finding a local concert band or marching band in your area is a great way both to like fulfill this hobby and connect with your local community. Now I want to talk about a couple different hobbies. They're all kind of connected in the like handicraft, fabric-based hobby area. The first one is needle felting. These often will require a kit of some kind, but I feel like they're relatively easy in terms of starting and also with the cleanup. There also are so many different tutorials on YouTube for whatever you want to make, and needle felting is a very forgiving material if you mess up. And you can do both different 3D shapes as well as felt painting. Another kind of like step up on the scale is getting into crocheting and knitting. This is another really easy hobby that you can do with either tutorial or with a kit. And as soon as you get started, the action kind of becomes more muscle memory and is more mindless the more practice you get. These are both hobbies also that are very forgiving. If you fuck up a part, you kind of can just like take the stitches out and go at it again. And the last on this list is sewing. This obviously can be very intimidating, but wait. Out of the three I just mentioned, sewing is the one I do the most of. And while there is a learning curve, I think after you get the basics, it's very easy to extrapolate from there. The first thing I would recommend doing is obviously following a commercial pattern from start to finish, because they often have a very easy step-by-step. And they really do tell you everything you need to know on the back of the pattern. And commercial patterns are often sorted by experience level anyway. I think a very good starter would be something like a skirt pattern. or getting a book that focuses on making like small plushies. These often don't take a lot of fabric and are also something you can often do by hand, so you don't have to commit to buying a big sewing machine. Another easy project is doing something like blanket making. These are often just a rectangle of fabric, and then you can either sew a blanket stitch around the outside by hand, or you can buy a blanket binding and sew on that instead. And I also think that both blankets and plushies make very good gifts if you're getting into this hobby for not just the intention of making things for yourself, but also for other people. Okay, next hobby I wanted to talk about is Pokemon Go. I did want to highlight a more active hobby here. Some people might be like, wasn't that just like the one summer in 2016? And no, Pokemon Go is still around, and honestly, it's gotten way better with time. There's literally so many events and activities in it that you can do, and obviously so much of it is based around walking and going out and living that childhood fantasy of going and catching Pokemon. I think if you're already in the mindset of wanting to do more hot girl walks, you can also just like play Pokemon Go at the same time, and it really will incentivize you to get moving. There's also a very big community aspect to it, with a lot of events kind of requiring other people in your area also to play Pokemon Go. I personally play it with my wife and best friend pretty much every month when there's a community day. I find it a lot of fun, and I'm really like, okay, let's get the whole gang together and go out and catch shinies. So it is a really good group activity, and it's really helped me be able to carve out time to spend with friends. And the last hobby I wanted to talk about is actually content creation. So this obviously can be with your social media platform of choice, like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Obviously, this is another hobby that I have, considering you are watching this video right now. And I feel like it's really important to go into this hobby with two things in mind. The first is the fact that you're not going to make money, especially at the start. And two, that you have to work on protecting your privacy. I feel like no one thinks about stranger danger online anymore, when it really should be such an essential part of being on the internet. In terms of getting into content creation, I feel like it's very easy to start. Now more so than ever, most people nowadays have a cell phone that has good enough video and audio quality that you can make videos very easily. And in terms of editing, there are a ton of free programs. I personally use DaVinci Resolve, and I find it just as good as a more expensive program. And this can kind of be a discussion for another day, but I feel like social media nowadays has kind of turned everyone into their own personal like micro-influencer anyway. And if you share content online, you might want it to have that like putting your best foot forward, some level of professionalism in the stuff that you make. I obviously love making YouTube videos. It is one of my main hobbies, and it's something that I do pretty much every weekend when I film these videos. And I just think it's been really fun to kind of like cultivate a small community here, even with my channel being so small, in being able to find other people that like similar books to me. Anyway, that is it for my list of hobbies, and that is going to be it for this video. I hope this video gave you guys some inspiration for some things for you to try out. If you guys like this video, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing if you aren't already. If you're interested in seeing my book content, please consider also following me on the Storygraph and my Instagram, which is linked in the description. And that is going to be it for me today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!